It's just resuming. Just takes a moment.
Okay, it's 9 o'clock and I'm going to call today's special council meeting to order.
We are now live.
We have an agenda in front of us. I'm just looking for a motion to accept the agenda as presented. Councillor Fraser?
I so move.
All in favor of that motion? That's carried, thank you. And we'll go straight to the reason the special council meeting was called, and that's discussion on the recent announcement for further restrictions for COVID-19. I'll turn that over to Mr. Kraus.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. So as council's aware, the province announced new restrictions at 4:30 yesterday, so we're still kind of evaluating and seeing how it affects our organization and the town. So we will go, I think I'll go through the list and how the different ones affect the town. And then just looking for guidance from council. We might have to come back next Tuesday with reports depending on council's decision. So I'm just going to flow through the restrictions and just highlight the ones that affect us. So festivals and events are prohibited indoors and outdoors. So the only one I can think of right now is the Parade of Lights. So, but I think we'll have a discussion with the Kinsmen and Alberta Health Services to see if that still falls outside of this restriction, because it is a drive-by event.
Okay.
Great. Council has any questions on that?
Yeah, I guess it's just clearing up that confusion of what is allowed and what's not allowed. What kind of event? I mean, that one isn't going to be, it's a drive-by, but there's the setup, there's, so yeah, a bit confusing, but I guess work with the Kinsmen and...
Yeah, and we'll report back to council, so
Sure.
I would think by Tuesday we would...
Oh, yeah, I texted the organizer or emailed the organizer as we sat here, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your Worship, so because we're in the enhanced status, the purple area, as the province calls it, our community center is obviously is closed under this new restrictions. I don't know, Mr. Arment, if we had any bookings in the next 3 weeks or not?
No, we have planned our staff Christmas function. That's been changed. We had 2 bookings for pickleball courts for Saturday, so those will obviously have to be canceled. But other than that, I don't believe. Yeah, there's a blood donor clinic scheduled for December 22nd or 23rd, just before Christmas. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. I know they were allowed to operate because of their extra precautions and restrictions that they put in, so we may need to seek clarification on that particular type of an activity.
And they're by appointment as well, right?
Yes.
And so you go in by appointment and you don't hang around after, you leave immediately after your donation.
Yeah.
Okay. Around the community center, is it allowed to be used for anything at all? Like not a gathering, obviously, but we'd had an inquiry yesterday to use it possibly as a place to do interviews for upcoming jobs that are coming here in January. So if there's precautions, like if they're by appointment, can they come in one door and go out another door? Would that be a possibility?
Your Worship, I think so.
Okay.
We can verify that, because it's like, when they close down community centers, I think what they're really trying to do is close down, gatherings,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
But if it becomes a workplace, I guess, as long as the restrictions of the workplace are followed.
Okay. And can the kitchen still be used there as well? If a caterer needs to use that kitchen, Because I know there was a caterer that used it for April, wasn't it, or January?
It was just after the last precautions, when they set up that camp just outside of town, they booked it and used it for the month.
Okay. Yeah, and that was catering for people that were coming to the area to work.
Yeah,
So
or
they were taking the food from
maybe
there.
delivering.
They were
Yeah.
delivering, so they were just basically using the kitchen.
Yeah.
So that's still allowed?
Yeah, Your Worship, I think that would be still,
Okay.
because it then becomes a workplace. right?
Okay. Yeah, thanks.
This is the way we can view that.
Okay.
The next restriction is all levels of sports are canceled. So that affects the aquatic center, I guess with the swim club, and of course the arena with all levels of hockey and figure skating and so forth. So, Wes, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, that's, and I'm talking with a couple of my staff members already, I believe, like minor hockey and those user groups have already been in touch and are aware that their events will be canceled as of Friday.
So just to clarify, no hockey at all?
No team sports.
Okay.
Right, so I guess the question is, are we allowed to have public skating at 25% reduced capacity? Right now, we were allowing up to 50 people. Is it classified as a social gathering? Or is it, because they are allowing individual fitness.
Right.
Yeah, so Your Worship, I think that moves us to the next category. So like our swimming pool is allowed to be open with the capacity limited to 25% of the occupancy. So I mean, in a quick discussion with Wes this morning, so really that means public swimming can stay open. Lane swimming can stay open with 25% capacity. But that's probably the only two events that we could host there. And if I look at it, public swimming is allowable at 25% capacity, so to me, public skating,
Right.
would fall into that realm too. But the question, I guess, we're looking for council is, that's pretty limited.
What is that number?
Yeah.
Well, I think right now, at the pool for public swims capacity is 65 people.
So 25%.
That's using all three pools. So 25% capacity of that, you're looking at.
So I had Councillor Fraser and then Councillor Alderson.
My question was, what is the occupancy? So that would be 16 and a quarter people. So, and a baby.
Sir, go ahead.
Yes.
I would just think from a logistics perspective, if we're going to allow those activities, maybe we put in a booking system that if you have, you want to come public swimming, you have to call and we cap it at, so maybe it's every hour, or whatever, you put it in hour blocks, or, are we looking at restricting the number of hours? At what point does it come not financially feasible for us to keep the doors open, even though we perhaps are? And I think that's a challenge that many businesses are going to face. At 25% capacity, is it financially feasible to do it?
Right, okay. Councillor Alderson?
Yeah, you said a little bit of what I was going to say anyhow. I think if we have the capability of keeping those things open, a booking system would be great. Limiting time, so you're blocking times so that you can have more turnover, so people do get more of a chance to get in there. I don't know. I mean, really, those things are a loss when it comes to dollars anyhow. The fact is, if we're taking away all team sports between now and Christmas, and we can give something to the community to do, I'm of the opinion that as long as we're still allowed to, then I think we should give the people something, because we've taken away, there's been a lot taken away. So if they can have a bit of a public swim, a little bit of a public skate, that would be great.
Councillor Narang and Councillor Phillips.
I'm just curious, like 16, like I've been to public swim, it has been a long time, but 16 seems like a high number even for how many people attend public swim? Like, is there more people than that usually are there?
Yeah, we've had instances in our public swim, especially on the weekends here lately, where we are almost at that 65.
Okay. So could we then add more hours of public swim for the whole?
I think that's what we would do, and what
Yeah.
we've tried to do with the scheduling at the pool is, certainly, the school groups aren't coming, so when you can either book a lane for swimming, or you can, come, but we've extended the hours available for public swimming.
Yeah.
That might help with the financial end of it if you could actually go more often.
And perhaps could we promote the family swim rates and family skate rates? I don't know, just to keep, Councillor Alderson, you're right. I mean, there's got to be something, but then, do they mask when they go there then? Also, right? Mask in the lobbies, in the lobby of the pool and the arena if they're going to be there. Just
And the
as
change room.
precaution. And the change room. And Councillor Phillips and Councillor Alderson?
Yeah, some of what I was going to talk about has already been discussed. If we can somehow make 5 public skates a day instead of just 1, or 5 public swim instead of just 1, that would help get that 25% and allow more people to use the facility. And I'm just in support of Councillor Alderson's comment. Yes, we need to follow AHS guidelines, we need to make people safe, but we also need to keep mindful that this isn't just a COVID thing, there's mental stability as well, and people need things to do. They need to feel a little bit of community spirit and to go out and do things. So I know there's a fine line between what you can and can't do, but if we can do it safely, I would definitely be in favor of keeping those open.
So would you allow then time for that group to leave the facility in between before having another group of 15 in there or 16?
The way we've got our current precaution set up is that the group going onto the ice, they come in early, and there's no crossover, so the people, come off the ice, the other group goes on, so they come in, they've got ready in the dressing room, and then the other group comes off, they change, and then they're gone. So we've worked on limiting the potential contact that groups have with each other. So by limiting our numbers of people that could come in and the blocks of time, we certainly could probably meet those precautions.
So do all the change rooms then have to be sanitized after each group? Is that?
Currently, all the touch points are, and then they're a couple of times a day. We've stepped up, so we don't deep clean every dressing room in between. Same at the pool, they've got certain blocks of time where we're closed for an hour, and that's when they go in and do a deep clean a couple times a day. But they're constantly doing the touch points.
Yeah, okay. Councillor Alderson?
Actually, Councillor Phillips and Councillor Lorraine kind of already covered it. Just
Okay.
Councillor Lorraine was talking about the possibility of extending or having more swim time, and then Councillor Phillips was talking about doing the same thing for skating. That's all I was going to mention. I think that'd be great.
Now, there's the distinction between the public skating and shinny. So we're not allowing shinny hockey at this time
Right.
because of the close contact that happens. But public skating, there's lots of space out there. If you're limited to 15 people per session, the contact, again, you're going to be able to social distance in the change rooms, or use multiple change rooms or other areas to put your skates on.
Okay. Did you have something to say, Mr. Crowe?
Nope.
No. Okay. Councillor Alt and then Councillor Fraser.
I was just going to ask, do we have a function on our town website that we can use for people to book these times as it is right now, or would it?
No, our schedules are posted on our website through the Max Galaxy system. You can log in and see all the bookings, but
So they still have to
to
phone.
actually, they would have to phone guest services to book a time, or the pool if we're, and that's what's happening right now with the pool for your lane swims. You're booking a lane. And that seems to be working really well, and people have adapted to that process.
Councillor Fraser?
I was just gonna say, how does that 15 people on the ice apply to school groups? Because I know the school groups are, like, the classes are larger than 15, and they have parent helpers tying skates and helping people change into their swimsuits. Or would they fall under school rules because they're a school group?
That's how we've sort of been interpreting now school groups, because they're that cohort already, you know, a gray area, right? But, you know, the schools, the grade 6 and under are still going to be going to school. We do have groups booked throughout the day at the arena. We haven't had any school groups coming swimming yet. But,
So there's no gatherings in your home, like they're discouraging that. So then we're taking those gatherings and just taking them to a larger area. Are we being counterproductive in that? Councillor Alderson?
I don't think so. I mean, it doesn't matter since the beginning of COVID, the rules and regulations have been all over the place. So I think we're falling within the rules and regulations here of AHS. And, you know, like Councillor Phillips was talking about, making sure that people still have the healthy mindset and mind frame, because they've been hit hard. So if we can fall within the rules and regulations currently, I think we should still do that.
Yeah, Mr.
yeah, I think where some of that goes, and as I interpret it, what the government's saying is that in these facilities or businesses, as we might classify, we're taking the extra cleaning precautions and trying to make the environment as safe as possible.
So we're at 13 active cases right now. We have to do everything possible to stop the rising case of that. So are there any other precautions we need to be taking in those public buildings and to allow this to happen?
Your Worship, I think we have all those processes in place and have for,
Okay.
you know, since we reopened. There isn't any additional measures for cleaning or anything in these new restrictions, so
Okay.
I think we're following the protocols there. Another impact that's going to affect the organization, and Premier Kenny alluded to it yesterday, is providing the authority to peace officers to enforce this. So that might become as an impact to Mr. Schrader's department.
Right.
If that is especially, you know, social gathering in homes. You know, like how do you respond to a complaint to that? You know, so but that we're waiting for the official word from the Solgen on that, but we haven't received anything yet.
Councillor Alderson?
Yeah, I couldn't help but notice how Mr. Kenny did a great job of pushing that onto municipalities again, when it could have been handled provincially. However, I have a question. Like right now, we're enhanced because there's 13 cases within the region, not within Rocky. But what happens if it drops down to 6 cases tomorrow? Because just as much as cases could be added, they could also be reduced. Does that change anything of what we've been talking about today?
Your Worship, actually, yes, because these mandatory restrictions are for enhanced areas.
Right.
You know, if we drop our purple status, we'll call it, you know, then these restrictions don't apply.
Great. Good to know.
So the main message is just to do everything in our possible power to prevent the spread and encourage people just to not let off the practices that we started out with. So, I mean, nobody wants to go into a shutdown again, nobody at all. But there's also a county to the north of us that has 220 active cases. And I think we need to be very careful because we could drop, and I'm hoping that we drop, but we also could rise if we're not careful, so. Councillor Fraser?
I've been contacted by a couple business owners regarding a mask bylaw, and they don't want a bylaw, but they're feeling kind of pressured by the public at large. Is there a way that we can support businesses on their decision if they decide as a business to mask? Is there something in our bullying bylaw that helps protect that business and those employees from, I guess, some of the negative emotions and actions of people who maybe don't agree with that decision? I don't think it needs to be a hammer from us, but I feel there's a lot of businesses that are feeling kind of left out in the cold as far as their
To mask or not from a business, whether it be a private, local business or a large company, I mean, that's something that business has the right to impose. People just have to get used to the fact that that is a reality now, that if a business wants you to wear a mask inside that particular business, you have to. You know, as far as a town point of view, I don't know if that's something that we should be enforcing. We should be encouraging people to wear masks, but not enforcing people to wear masks.
Sorry, I guess not, I wasn't saying that we should be enforcing people wearing masks. I was wondering if we should be enforcing our bullying bylaw if there is an incident against an employee asking somebody to wear a mask.
I mean, if it turns into a situation inside that particular store, I would think that would be something that store would have to call the RCMP to deal with, if you're dealing with an irate customer. I don't know if that becomes a municipal thing.
Councillor Alderson? Councillor Murray?
Kind of to mirror Councillor Phillips, I think, I mean, if there's an incident and there is bullying, there's some sort of, there's some laws being broken, I think that's always something that's, the police should be called for something like that. I think, you know, the joy of a democracy is, you know, people can be opinionated, but I think there's a line for sure. And if people want to vote, they vote with their dollar. That's the nice thing about when it comes to businesses. So, but it certainly shouldn't be any bullying or harassment of any sort.
Councillor Murray?
Is it something that we could do a positive, like a positive supportive marketing campaign saying, you know, support all businesses regardless of, like,
Yes.
just something along those lines where it's not so negative and nasty? Like if we could just do a social media push going, you know, businesses will choose.
Yeah, I mean, Your Worship, I mean, oh, sorry.
No.
Your Worship, I mean, our staff are facing that daily.
That's what I'm
To be honest with you, I think yesterday I received 3 incident reports of, you know, people going beyond expressing their opinion to our staff. I mean, we're trying to support our staff, and I know our staff are instructed to hand out, you know, Wes's business card to, they have further, you know, to take it up versus on our staff. So, I mean, that's, but under our bullying bylaw, I mean, I think we would be stretching the intent of that bylaw to do enforcement on it, to be honest with you.
I had a suggestion made to have some kind of a campaign, call it the Get Back to Zero campaign, and just really encourage, you know, what the restrictions are, like, you know, masking, encouraging masking, encouraging, you know, all of the proper etiquette that we have, like hand washing and no touching, you know, stuff like that. So I don't want to see us rise. I do want to see us stay here and definitely drop below 13. And I don't want to see any, we have to have patience. It's not, we shouldn't be taking it out on frontline staff any place at any time, period. And especially now when people are worried. We don't know why they, you know, they don't want their business to shut down. They have sick relatives at home. For whatever reason, there should be no shaming for anybody that wants to wear a mask. So, Councillor Alderson?
I think it works in 2 ways. Personally, I wouldn't be on board with that because I don't encourage masking. I think it's worse than causes worse effects than good ones.
Sorry, on board with what? Just.
I'm not on board with encouraging masking in the community. I think dehumanizing things and there could be potentially worse effects depending on what doctors we're listening to. I'm definitely on board with people using common sense, but I would not personally be on board with a campaign for that.
Councillor Phillips?
A lot of the anger that comes out in people is fear of what's going on, and COVID has a lot of people in high anxious states, high fear, high anxiety. I mean, the best way to combat fear is to give people some education and maybe your example of Get to Zero, maybe some type of a campaign like that we can put out to encourage people. You know, you don't have to wear a mask, but it's encouraged. You don't have to do this, but it's encouraged. RCMP need to be involved in those isolated situations.
Councillor Fraser, Councillor Noreen, Councillor Alderson.
I guess what I would like to put out there is that no system is perfect. Masks aren't perfect, social distancing's not perfect, hand washing's not perfect, nothing's perfect. But the holes in each method help to cover, and they stack up and create a multiple barrier to help it from moving around. So if people can't wear masks, there are those people, but that doesn't mean that you don't follow any of the restrictions. So if you can't do masks because there's a reason for that, and that's your choice, that doesn't mean that because you don't mask that you don't also do the other layers of protection, because it's not just about whether a mask works or doesn't work. It's about how all of those work together. If you reduce 3% here and 30% here and 12% here, that adds up. So I guess that's my push on the campaign is masks are maybe not the solution for everybody, but they should be encouraged as a solution, as one of the steps.
Councillor Noreen.
Yeah, I actually would be on board with a campaign, and I think that as elected officials in Alberta and in Canada, we kind of have an obligation to follow the guidance of the doctors that our other elected officials are following, which is Dr. Hinshaw, Dr. Tam. That's sort of what our messaging shouldn't contradict their messaging. So I would be completely on board with encouraging and promoting the messaging that they're sending to us.
Councillor Alderson.
Yeah, just want to say, our messaging shouldn't be necessarily contradictory. It doesn't mean we have to pick up their campaign necessarily. It's already been done provincially. But I did want to just say that so far it's been implied that the shaming is one way, and I just wanted to say it's two way. For people not wearing masks, they also get shamed for doing that. And we've been getting a lot of messages from people that way. So it's not a one-way shaming, it goes both ways, and people really just need to not do that to each other in general.
Your Worship, for us being in the purple status or enhanced status, it's our region. So if council's looking at perhaps a campaign or a promotion to try to reduce that, we actually need to work with our regional partners, Ocheese, Sunchild, Bighorn, and Caroline, the county. So perhaps our communication coordinator could connect with them and seeing if we can put out a kind of a joint, let's work together to
stop the spread. Yeah, I'm good with that. A combined message is a strong message, and I think that's what we need right now, is to be united in stopping this. Councillor Alderson?
Yeah, I think as long as it's including masking, which I think I've stated obviously I'm against, I would like it to be recorded votes so people know who is voting for what and why.
It's not a vote on masks, though. It's a voting on a...
I agree, but the masks are involved in that.
But we're just encouraging them, we're not mandating them.
Yeah.
Correct?
Correct.
I believe we're encouraging to follow public health guidelines.
That's exactly what we're encouraging, and I have no problem with that. Encouraging following the public health guidelines. I'm all for that.
I thought we were discussing a coordinated effort with
Yes.
Ocheese and to get out a message of how we can slow this process down.
Yes.
I don't think we're talking about mandating masks at this point.
Absolutely, we aren't talking about mandating masks.
To be clear, I haven't once mentioned mandating masks, but if masks, which they have been mentioned as part of that coordinated effort, then I just want it to be a recorded vote.
So, do we need a resolution just to coordinate communication?
Your Worship, I think it'd probably be better, considering Councillor Alderson's request. And it'd just be a motion that council instruct administration to work with our regional partners on a joint communication on following provincial guidelines. I mean, it's up to council what the resolution is, but.
Yeah, I mean, if it's that simple and it's not specifically pinpointing the encouraging of wearing masks, then I could probably be on board with that.
But it's been proven that wearing masks is a preventative measure.
By people that, you're talking about following the money, and there's only certain doctors that are coming out and saying that. There's certainly doctors that have been coming out and saying the opposite.
But we're beholden to follow the directions of the chief medical officer.
Blindly?
Well,
I don't think we're beholden. I think we can,
I think
we
as council
certainly
we are.
by law have to follow AHS. I agree with that.
So is everybody on game with working on a communication strategy with our partners? Yes? Okay. Okay, Councillor Fraser?
I'll make that motion.
Renee, can you please read our motion back?
Sure. Be it resolved that council direct administration to work on a communication strategy with regional partners to encourage residents to follow provincial guidelines.
Does that sound good? Councillor Fraser,
That sounds good.
Does anybody have any comments?
Just for clarification, Your Worship, is this a recorded vote?
Yeah, we'll make it a recorded vote.
Okay, all in favor of that motion? Okay, that's 5 in favor. Opposed? Thank you. That motion is carried. What else, Dean? It was...
So, Your Worship, getting back to our rec facilities, just looking for council's guidance, you want us to bring back a report for Tuesday on, because we have to review staffing levels, hours, you know, I mean, because I don't think we can go forward 3 weeks opening from 6 in the morning to 10 at night just for, you know, public swimming or lane swimming or public skating.
Right.
But I think we need to sit down and analyze, you know, what's probably like the best for our citizens and the best financially and staffing. So the council would give us that grace to think about that and bring a report back to Tuesday for councils.
For sure.
So just a resolution on that. And I think on the weekend until Tuesday, well, I mean, our facilities will be open, but it'll be just for those permitted uses. Does that work?
I think so.
And that's comfortable for you, Mr. Ament? Like, that gives you enough direction to...
Yeah, I mean, the pool is an example. Typically, the weekends is set aside for public swimming or lane swimming or private rentals. The arena, we open at 7 in the morning for hockey. You know, would we need to open that early for public skates? And we certainly don't need to be open till midnight every night of the week. Right? So, like Mr. Crowe said, looking at, well, I'd like to talk with my staff and say, what hours do you see the greatest use? I know the gym, there are dedicated people that are there at 6 o'clock in the morning, same with their lap swimmers at the pool. That time, you know, prior to going to work, there's that influx, and then again, what is the best time for those public skates or the public swims during the week? I guess people, you know, at the pool, you know, we've got kids in school, there's the parent talk groups or those types of things, so we do offer those times throughout the day, but do we need to be open, you know, past, well, the pool typically closes at last swim at 8:30 or 9 o'clock.
Okay. Okay, Councillor Fraser?
I just had a question on the gym. Do people book a time slot now, or do they?
No.
There's not enough overlap there.
It's
That's
very,
the problem.
it's not very often. I mean, we've come up a couple of times where we've had the maximum of 25 people come in. As they come in, they sign in, they grab their little bottle of cleaning solution, and they're cleaning the equipment before use and after use. And so usually occasionally all 25 bottles are in use, but for the most part,
Now,
not.
does the 25% apply to the fitness center as well?
Yes, so we would have to reduce the numbers, because right now, our maximum is 25. So if you take 15% of that, you're looking at 5 people max.
It's about averaging there anyhow.
Okay.
Yeah, and really, that's about it. It's just about if we do implement a booking system, okay, we'll book your 1 hour workout time. And again, it's going to require some promotion and marketing about here's our new procedures, here's our new times.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Phillips?
And, potentially, I'm just going to use the pool as an example, maybe 6 to 9 is a used time slot, and then maybe 1 to 3 is another used time slot. Instead of staying open from 6 to 3, do 6 to 9, close for that portion in between, that they can do deep cleaning at that point, reopen again in the afternoon. It would probably keep the staff a little more distant from the public and make the public a little more safe because of using it at the peak times and having that cleaning being done when there's no one there.
So,
Just an option.
so we're looking for a motion just to have staff bring back a recommendation for us on Tuesday. Look at all the financial,
Staffing levels, financial, and citizen needs.
okay, good. So you guys can work on that and bring it back for a decision on Tuesday. Okay, Councillor Phillips?
I'll make that motion that we look at all the avenues and different ways that our facilities can be used and bring that report back to Tuesday's council meeting.
Including in that the financial impact.
Yeah, including the financial impact, yes.
Okay, all clear on that motion? All in favor of that motion? That's carried, thank you.
Your worship, I think that's the topics administration wanted to cover with council, so.
Okay. So I guess we're clear. I mean, we have a list of what was discussed yesterday on our town website already, town Facebook page. Some of the stuff, I guess, like Festival of Lights, those types of gatherings, we still need to clarify, and we'll wait until Tuesday for that. So, anybody have any other questions? Councillor Narang?
Are we still short one peace officer?
Yeah, your worship, we are short 1 peace officer right now. The position has been filled, but it's not until like March.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
I just think that, COVID is unprecedented by any means, and just encourage the people of Rockview to have patience whenever you can. It's not an easy situation. There's no perfect answers for what we're going through, but if everyone works together and points in the same direction, we will all come out of this, whole.
Yeah, that's the goal here, is just to work together, and it's, I mean, who would have ever thought we would be going through a pandemic, right? And this is uncharted territory for all of us. Provincial leaders, federal leaders, we just have to have patience and pull together as a community. So, all right. With that then, it's 9:38, and I will adjourn today's special council meeting. Thanks everybody for making the time to come in.
No.